I always dream I'm in a tall apartment building with 100 or more floors. Sometimes it's a dark night out, sometimes it's a bright sunny day and I can see the ocean. I've been dreaming about this building ever since I can remember. I always go into different units, and the people inside change, and sometimes the building changes shape, like it doesn't configure properly, and apartments are weirdly stacked on top of each other. I often dream that I'm chasing my dog that passed away through the halls. Sometimes I see my grandfather at the age of 50 in the staircases, trying to lead me and help me. I dream about this place at least once a week. It's all so scary and familiar to me. I've only ever actually had one experience that's left me wondering. When I was 10, I was sleeping over at my grandparents' house on the couch. I jolted awake, but I couldn't move. It was a classic night terror, which I only ever had at their house. I had never seen a shadow person before, and this one, looking back as an adult, still doesn't really fit the description. My grandfather had a nightly ritual, and the door was never left unlocked, let alone open. The figure's body was a shadow, but he had a deer's head, complete with a rack of antlers. He stood over me, staring straight at me, into my eyes. I remember his being yellowish. I wanted to yell, but I couldn't. I don't know how long it lasted, but it didn't feel like a dream. After a while, I woke up anyway. The door was shut, and my grandparents never said anything about it being left open. I had an odd feeling for the entire week after that. I never stayed the night at my grandparents' again. Well, except for 2 years ago when we had that big hurricane. My whole family got together there. My cousin woke up screaming that night too. A night terror like I used to have. My grandparents owned around 20 acres in South Carolina in the middle of nowhere, completely wooded. They had always said their house was haunted, but I had never experienced anything like that, there or elsewhere. I'm still uncomfortable staying in that house. I moved out of my college apartment to go back home for the summer 3 days ago. For a week, I was the last one living there because all my roommates had gone home. Another thing to note is that I live on the first floor, and have a door in my room that leads to a porch in the street. In the time I was alone, I kept having these weird dreams where I was laying in bed, unable to move or speak, and I was staring at the door in my room that leads outside while somebody was trying to break in. The doorknob would violently shake, and the door was noticeably being kicked at by someone. I had this dream about 3 or 4 times before I finally moved back home 3 days ago. Today, I got a call from my landlord saying that my apartment had been broken into over the weekend, and that they had come in through the side door in my room. This obviously freaked me out because it was so similar to the dreams I'd been having. All I can think about today is, was I dreaming about the door being tampered with on those nights I was alone? Or was I in a sleep paralysis state, and somebody really was trying to break in? Either way, it's just so creepy, and I'm glad I wasn't there when they broke in. I dreamt I was a middle-aged man, which I'm not, stuck in a haunted place with my daughter who doesn't exist in reality. We were looking for food, avoiding shadow monsters, which is pretty normal for a nightmare so far. Suddenly, I got the sense of something approaching. I took my daughter and ran. She looked at me and screamed, "Wake up, it's coming for us, hurry! It's here, hurry!" The shadow monster in front of me grabbed my hand, and I woke up in bed panting, terrified. My hand was completely numb. I calmed down and turned on the lights, thinking that it was just because my hand was going numb that I had this nightmare. I checked to make sure that it wasn't a false awakening, and my hand went back to normal fast enough. I still felt a little scared though, so I took a glass of water from the shelf and walked to my window, trying to forget. I looked outside, and could see that some girls were looking at me from another window. I thought they were just bored and nosy, so I put the empty glass of water in the sink and went back to sleep. Morning came, and I got up from bed again. Only now, the glass was on the shelf, not in the sink. I remembered that before, I hadn't been wearing my glasses, so I couldn't have seen those girls from the window. That was the weirdest fake awakening ever. I have nightmares that I really can't describe very well. They're pretty intense, though. The best way I can describe it is an increased awareness of what I can only call the fourth dimension, and an anomaly that comes into my room. Imagine if somebody took a perfect facsimile of an object and superimposed it over another object you were familiar with. Take, for example, a closet. Okay, that closet would just be a closet to all your senses, except something deep inside your brain knows that the object is wrong. No spooky skeletons, no Alamows, just this perfectly normal thing that for some reason is tripping the fight or flight response. Last month I had a really strange episode. I came to when I was standing in my room, walking over to where an anomaly was manifesting itself. I was walking towards it. In this case, it was the closet door again, and I was reaching out as if to open the door. Jesus, man, I was seconds away from touching that thing. I had a dream as a kid that I was in some American 1960s idyllic little town. There's people walking about happy, and it's a sunny day. There's an ice cream van with a fat Mario-looking guy serving jumpy kids ice cream while laughing like Santa Claus. Birds are chirping and kids are laughing. It's a pretty cheery dream. Suddenly, the people are gone, and it's dead silent. The odd bird chirps in the background. I turn to look at the ice cream van, and it's still there. Fat Mario's just standing there in the van, arms crossed and smiling at me. So I call out to Mario, "Hello? Where is everybody?" And I get no response. He just stands there, smiling. He looks kinda creepy, teeth glistening in the sun, but he's my only friend in the world at the moment, apparently. So I ignore him and decide to check out one of the houses. I walk up the garden path, sun on my back, and knock on the red door. "Hello?" No answer. So I creak the door open and look inside. There's 5 people standing in this bare room. They're leaning into the wall and their shoulders meet the wall. They're all headless and joined to the walls. And now I'm thinking, whoa, forget this. I run out of the house to the left across the lawn and into the next house. Again, there were people standing around, joined to the walls by their neck. I'd had enough. I decided, nope, no, I'm waking up. But I couldn't wake up. I was trying my hardest, slapping myself in the dream, screaming at this point. So I ran outside across the grass, panicking and still trying to wake up. I realized I'd forgotten about Fat Mario, so I ran over to the ice cream van, desperate. I was out of breath, and he was just standing there with a big smile and laughing. I asked, "Hey, help! How do I wake up?" He looked at me, smiled, and said, "You can't." I woke up nearly crying. I was a galley cook on a cruise liner. Halfway through the trip, people started disappearing and nobody could figure out why. Eventually, we started finding body parts and bloody chunks in dark nooks and crannies, like behind a boiler, for instance. Eventually, it was just me and a handful of crew left. All the passengers were gone. I was locked in my room, terrified, and decided to brush my teeth. I was standing over the sink when blood started pattering the porcelain. I leaned down to investigate, and more blood splashed into the drain. I looked into the mirror, and my entire lower face was covered in blood, and the closet behind me was holding racks upon racks of the dead passengers' body parts. I realized I had been eating them.